All right, another more informal setup for Newbie Sports. Conference championship weekend is over, and we had a wild day two. And that last game, wildest game of the weekend. My goodness, Duke coming up with the wins. 5-loss Duke coming up with the ACC championship game in overtime with an interception. And then Virginia having a minute and 22 seconds to march 96 yards to even give it to overtime at all in the first place. Insane. Only to throw an interception on the first play of overtime after roughing the passer to put them back 15 yards. Not 50 yards. Wow. And then Alabama has been playing as well as they have for the past couple of weeks, and it wasn't good enough to beat Georgia. Alabama, your fans are not going to be pleased with where I place ya. Yeah, I don't think you should have advanced in a ranking. I don't think you've been playing better than Utah, and Utah fell 3 rankings in 2 weeks, and you advanced 1. I don't think that was deserved. So, yeah, we talked about the ACC, we talked about the SEC. Good job with Georgia. That undoubtedly moves you up a spot. And Alabama, man, you demonstrated how poorly you have played the last couple of weeks. And back to BYU. And as sad as it makes me, that fourth quarter was the worst quarter of BYU football I have seen since the Vegas Bowl against Utah. Since the first quarter of the Vegas Bowl against Utah. Yeah. I don't know how BYU could have played that last quarter any worse, other than just having no offense. Maybe possibly having -3 rushing yards total on the game, Alabama. But yeah, BYU. Yeah, we'll get to the rest of my thoughts on BYU and Alabama afterwards. But the Big Ten championship game was a lot tighter than I thought it was going to be, and probably most people thought it was going to be. Indiana coming out on top. I picked Ohio State. I think I picked Ohio State. Pretty sure I picked Ohio State. But regardless, I didn't get very much points this weekend. Indiana coming up with a very close win against the number 1 team in the nation. I'm going to need to make some adjustments on my notes here, but we'll get to my predictions for the final college football playoff rankings. I'm just going to say the 12 that are in. And I guess I'll put the first 2 out. Number 1, Indiana. No surprise. Number 2, Georgia. No surprise. Number 3, I've been convinced by my family that Ohio State performed well enough and the game was tight enough that they're not going to drop them to 4. Ohio State 3. Texas Tech staying at 4. 5 Oregon, 6 Ole Miss, 7 Texas A&M, 8 Oklahoma. Same as currently ranked. 9 Miami. I do think they put Miami in after this. I don't like that decision. I think Miami should have been out of it a long time ago. I think Miami's in at number 9. And then staying at number 10 is Notre Dame, Tulane at 11, and JMU at 12. And that means the first 2 out are BYU and Alabama. Alabama ranked above BYU. Alabama 13, BYU 14. Now, how the rankings actually would be is Alabama would be 11th and BYU would be 12th. But with how the rankings come out, it would end up being that Tulane takes the 11th spot and JMU takes the 12th spot. But, yeah, I the worst quarter of football for BYU since the Las Vegas Bowl. Several turnovers. What was that other thing that we were talking about? Guys, there was a few other things about this game that was really sad. Very, very sad. But I'm grateful to my Cougars. I'm grateful for the second consecutive 11-win season. We'll see what happens with our bowl game when maybe we'll get our 12th win. I really hope it's not BYU versus Utah again. Not because I don't want to play Utah, but because I want to play a team we haven't played. It's been floated out there that BYU could play against USC. I think that would be, of the teams that are left, the best one. But those are my predictions, and we'll see what happens with this playoff season. I think I'm going to be rooting for Texas Tech the rest of the way. Except for their fans. I've been out of state for a few different games, and there's just the number of negative altercations with Texas Tech fans this time around is greater than any out-of-state game I've ever been to. I was at the Michigan game when they blew us out of the water. I had no negative interactions with any Michigan fans. At all. At all. I've been to the Vegas Bowl several times. There's a few trash talking and stuff. There was a Texas Tech fan that had a camera crew getting in the faces of BYU fans as they came out of the stadium and sneering at him and stuff. And I think one of them even bumped up against my dad and my dad's friend. And then there was some idiot Texas Tech people that came screeching around the corner in their car, suggesting that we perform various sexual acts on them. Classy. Excellent classy. And then there's several other individual Texas Tech fans screaming in BYU crowds' faces. And just nastiness. Nastiness. I don't have much more to add. I sure hope this is not the entirety of your fan base, Texas Tech. I don't think it is, because most of the people sitting around us was very nice. But I've never encountered that nasty treatment by any other fan base I've seen. There's my rankings. I think Texas Tech stays at 4. I think Ohio State only falls to 3. And I think Miami's in. Alabama and BYU should be out, I think. And this has been Newbie Sports.